are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue, Thursday, August 8th, and we got a good show here for you today. Episode 237. We're going to start it off like this. It's going to be Tim's rant about the New York Jets. Kind of some controversies circling them, a lot of up in the air, unanswered questions, which is the purpose of our first opening rant here. So that'll be Tim to lead things off. To finish the first segment, we'll have hits and misses, where it always lives there, go over where we were right and wrong. And then into the second, we will have our NFC South predictions in today's edition of our Divisional predictions. It'll be the NFC South. And then we'll get into Dak Prescott, talk about him getting paid possibly, and then all the other big contracts that have kind of seen all around the league in the recent weeks. We weren't here for a full show last week, so we got a lot for you this time.
The Jordan Love, the Tua. Trevor was a while ago.
Jordan Love becoming the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Yes.
I mean, yeah. No, you don't think so?
Crazy.
No?
That's crazy.
Not a fan?
No. Either way, however you're with us today, we appreciate it. You can watch the show on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Prime Video. Then you can go listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and of course, the iHeartRadio app. So go stream it. We appreciate it. That is The Issue.
Let's take a moment. First time I've ever worn a jersey on this podcast, which I feel like is crazy for a sports podcast, but we had a lot of the merch coming out, so I wore that for a while, and I was like, you know what, let's switch it up. And it's so clean.
I like the jersey too.
It's so clean.
I love the royal blue and
the blue is just such a good look. One of the only reasons to like the Royals, really. I mean, well, this year they've actually been good.
They've been pretty decent.
Yeah, I guess they have been good. Bobby Wood Jr. stud. But anyway, let's talk about the Jets. So what, about 18 months ago now, started the Aaron Rodgers experiment. Not even. I feel like it's closer to a year ago, maybe 16 months, they started the Aaron Rodgers experiment. So you sign him, they acquire Aaron Rodgers, and then they play the Aaron Rodgers best friends and family, discount game where they sign all of his best buddies except for the good ones like Devontae Adams and David Bakhtiari. They didn't trade for either of them. Instead, they'll overpay for some old Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, who's closer to a 3. They pay him like a 2. And then you'll go on Hard Knocks, which is kind of noisy, and that's not necessarily your fault. You have to do it, right? They pick a team, and you don't really have a choice, but it's still a fact of the matter. And then Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles in the, third snap of the year? He insists he's coming back the entire season just to make it a story, even though we all know he was never going to. There was no chance he was ever going to come back. But I'm coming back. I'm working my way back. I'll be back. Of course, they stink under Zach Wilson because Zach Wilson stinks as an NFL quarterback. And then this offseason, they make the adjustment to the roster, which, you'd think Aaron got hurt. So let's add a bunch of old and, often injured veteran players like a Tyron Smith, like a Mike Williams, like Morgan Moses, right? Again, despite being the issue last season, being injuries to aging players. So you'd think, let's not bring in more aging, injured players, but they did anyway. And then they'll trade for a star pass rusher, Hassan Reddick. So they sign him, that's cool. Or they acquire him, that's cool. Aaron then misses parts of OTAs to go to Egypt on a personal trip. Robert Saleh calls it unexcused. Aaron then gets pissed, says it was a personal trip, and basically that he doesn't see what the issue was. Hassan Reddick, by the way, is holding out and is continuing to hold out. And then Robert Saleh says Aaron Rodgers is not starting in the first 2 preseason games. Haven't talked about the third yet. And then Aaron says, news to him, he wants to play but won't. Oh, and by the way, Hassan Reddick is still holding out. Sorry, that was a lot, but that's the Jets past 18 months in a nutshell right there. Does that sound like a winning organization? Does that sound like a functional program to you? High school, college, hell, a middle school team. Does that sound like a good travel baseball program? Right, not really. That sounds like a terrible way to run a business. Is it the right way to run a restaurant? Probably not. I mean, just not addressing the weaknesses. Doubling down on weaknesses. Noisy, in the press. oh, no press is, no bad press, whatever. No press is bad press, is that what the saying is? I don't know. They've had some bad press. And it just frustrates me that Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers can't go to the podium and can we just give an answer that just diffuses the situation? Can you just go be Dak Prescott, Eli Manning, Tom Brady at the podium? I don't need you to be Baker Mayfield at the podium. Can you just put a wet blanket on a fire? And so in honor of that today, I'm going to, in essence, prove that it's really not that difficult to do. We're going to do a little mock interview, almost like a game. Right? It's kind of like a game here. I want to see, Luke has 3 questions that he would ask a head coach in the NFL that is in a similar situation. I don't know what the questions are. I feel like it can't be that hard to just diffuse the situation. So go ahead and ask away, my friend.
Okay, so I structured it towards the Jets. So everything here is Jets related.
Oh, it's Jets focused. So I'm in Robert Saleh's shoes, not just a hypothetical. I'm in his shoes.
Yes, so that's kind of the premise. Answer it how you believe he should have. Okay, we're going to start off with the big one. Okay. Everybody wants to know, what's the deal with Aaron Rodgers? Is he going to start in the preseason? Are we going to see him at all? And what are you expecting from him this year after missing the entire season last year?
Well, I mean, let's start actually with that last question. What am I expecting? Well, Aaron's a total pro. He's been doing this a long time, and he's been great for a long time. So I expect him to keep on with that. He's been doing the work. He's been here. Of course, we had the OTAs, but again, we're moving past that, and it's not a problem. He's been here. He's been engaged, and he's doing better. He's getting better with the program, right? So we have a plan in place for him in the preseason. We're not going to disclose that information quite yet. We will talk to Aaron about it, but right now we're just focused on getting better each day. So no, that's not something I'm willing to release yet. But once we know and once we discuss that in depth more with Aaron, we'll make sure we let you guys know.
Much better answer.
Thank you.
Question 2. There's been a lot of talk surrounding the sports media space of missing the playoffs this year. What's your response to that? And what's the focal point of the team going to be this year? What can fans look out for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's of course it's the NFL. So I know, of course, bringing a star quarterback like Aaron can definitely raise the stakes. At the end of the day, in the NFL, no matter where you're at, you have to win, right? And you have to get to the playoffs. You have to compete in playoff games, and of course, the goal is to win a Super Bowl for every team, and that's what it should be in the NFL. That's what GMs expect. That's what owners expect. So I would expect nothing less for this team. I mean, the focus point is going to be that in and of itself is going to be focused, right? It's got to be one game at a time. It's got to be every man doing their job because we truly feel that with this roster, nobody has to go above and beyond. If we can all do our job and be sound fundamentally, then this is a team that's going to compete and be right there in the playoffs.
Okay. Question number 3. Coming out of camp, you have the 49ers on the road to start the season. Very physical team. You have an aging quarterback. He had an injury last year. Is that something that concerns you, and how do you prepare for the 49ers right off the bat?
Yeah, it's certainly concerning. I mean, the number one thing, you have to have your tackles healthy, and right now they are healthy, and we expect them to be healthy going into week 1 with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. Being veterans, we expect them to play at a strong veteran level. I know they're a good team. They're a physical team in San Francisco. Of course, pass rush is always a concern against a high-level defense like that, especially when you have a quarterback coming off an injury. But we feel like we have the spots, the pieces in place and the spots that we need to make sure that we're good in that game.
There you go. There's the 3 questions.
See, I feel like that was solid. I think the only hiccup in the first that I even mentioned the OTAs. I shouldn't even mention that. But other than that, I thought it was solid.
Yeah. It was. Do they create the drama? Or are they trying to...
I feel like it's not that hard to go to the podium and just be like, look, Aaron's a total pro. And then on Aaron's side, hey, Robert's the coach, so if he said that I'm playing in the 3rd preseason but not the first 2, well, then I'm just going to get ready. I'm going to keep doing what I am every day at practice, and I'll get ready for the 3rd preseason game. Like, why can't we just say that?
So real quick to finish it off, is this a red flag?
Absolutely.
Robert Saleh, guess.
The whole organization over the past 16 months has been a red flag. Absolutely. I think the only thing I liked that they did was draft Olu Fashanu, a tackle. That's an adult draft pick.
Is he the coach?
Robert Saleh?
Is Saleh the coach that you want moving forward in New York?
I'll tell you one thing. There is zero proof of concept that he is. Like, there is, if you can argue it based on I think he's going to be good, but there is zero proof of concept, and there is no fact for me to stand on that says, yes, he is the right guy to make. Can he win a Super Bowl, which is the goal? You have Aaron Rodgers, obviously past his prime, but still 2-3 years removed from an MVP. Mm-hmm. The goal is a Super Bowl, and it should be a legitimate goal, is getting to the playoffs and making a run in the playoffs. No, I don't think he's that guy.
Okay.
There's zero proof of that.
There it is.
None at all.
That is the Jets in a nutshell going into, I guess, the week 1 of preseason here is among us.
Coming up.
So we will see how it all looks. Let's move into hits and misses here on Thursday.
All right, number 1. So, I said this precisely, what was that, 2 weeks ago? I asked you, what do you think 2 is worth? You're like, I think he'll get like 35 or like whatever, 40.
2 or 3 weeks ago, yeah.
40 million, like anywhere between 30 and 40. And I was like, look, I agree he's probably worth 30 to 35, maybe 40. But in reality, we can sit here and be like, oh, he's worth this, he's worth that. Like, that's what you should pay him. No, like, in reality, he's going to get 50 plus. Like, there's not a world where he doesn't get 50 plus.
Which
because that's just what's going to happen.
I just don't like it. Like, that is not a good contract at this point. For the Dolphins?
I mean, maybe not. But my point being, it's like, you have a guy who he's in his, I'd say he's entering his prime. He had a good productive season last year. The concern was that was he going to stay healthy? He did stay healthy. Now, granted, I have my concerns about him. I don't think it's a great contract either. But in that scenario, that type of player always gets paid. Mm-hmm. That type of player, a productive player, that the most recent year they've been healthy, they've been fine, they will get paid, i.e. Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins wasn't even healthy, and he got paid. I'm not saying top of the market, but got paid more than Kirk Cousins probably should have gotten paid.
More than he's worth.
Probably. Right? Like, that's the reality of the situation. That's exactly what happened with Tua and Jordan Love. We'll talk about more quarterback contract stuff towards the end of the show here. So, miss number 1. Reports are that Drake May has struggled. Chad Finn from the Boston Globe said that he's taken his fair share of lumps as a rookie thus far in camp, and that it's basically pretty much going to be a long shot for him to start day 1. Jacoby Brissett looks like he's going to be the day 1 starter, and people are even saying that Joe Milton looks good. I think that's the thing with Joe Milton, is he looks good, but I'm not sure Joe Milton's actually a winning quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'd necessarily see that.
I see this more as a loss for the Patriots, if anything. And
yeah, I was a big Drake May guy.
What this says about their, I guess, drafting, I don't even know what to call it, insight. You go after a guy who's supposed to be pro-ready and ready to start, like a Drake May, and it just goes completely downhill.
I don't know if I'd call him pro-ready, but yeah, he wasn't like a project like J.J. McCarthy, but he was, I don't know, whatever. I expect him to look a little bit better.
More ready to go than normal, at least to play in that system.
I figured he'd be closer to like Josh Allen, where everybody knew he probably wasn't ready. Right, he probably wasn't ready, but everyone was like, he's talented enough, though. We're just going to kind of go with it and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, he's talented enough. We're just going to let him mess up, and we're just going to go with it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think
I thought it was going to be closer to that.
Yeah, I think their hopes in drafting him was that he was going to at least make a bid to start this year.
Well, when Justin Herbert was his other comp, is it possible that Brissett, who I feel like has gotten hurt quite often in his career when he does start, like, is it crazy to think Brissett misses the game and Drake May steps in like a Herbert did when Tyrod Taylor missed a game, and then the rest was history? Like, it's possible. Hit number 2 here. We've said, oh man, it's going to go south quickly. Usually it doesn't go south to like miss number 3 or hit number 3, but we've said that for a while that sports shouldn't be very political, and and then the other side, i.e. the left, wants to just demonize people for anything and everything, the whole cancel culture, right? And they try to cancel Harrison Butker for simply saying, like, I'm a Catholic, this is what Catholics believe.
At a Catholic
university, take it or leave it. He wasn't saying, like, if you don't live this way, you suck. He's basically just saying, these are my values, I'm going to stand for them. You do you. And again, he's preaching to other people, not preaching, but talking to other people that share kind of the same values, and he got crucified for it. Either way, we were right that everybody's overreacting. Harrison Butker's a good person. He's a good football player, and he just re-signed to be the highest paid kicker in football, like almost $6.5 million per year. Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, I'm glad. It just shows you that everything does eventually settle back down and end up how it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. Water finds its level, as some people may say.
Yeah, the extremes of both sides will try to pull you in, but eventually things tend to calm down.
Yeah, absolutely. Miss number 2 here. Justin Fields has looked really good so far in Steelers camp, and I haven't been a fan of Justin Fields when he was in Chicago. I said, you just can't be subpar from the pocket, turn the ball over a lot, get injured, more than average because he's a dual threat quarterback that runs a lot, and be like a franchise guy. Like, that doesn't add up. But thus far in camp, again, it's only training camp. plenty to see. But right now, he is putting a real claim in to be the Steelers' starting quarterback. With Russ hurt, I think it is more of a debate now than it was day one.
Yeah, I think it could happen. I don't see an upside with it, though. Like, yeah, he looks great in camp.
I would say I see a big upside. I see a very low floor, though.
Yeah, yes. And I see more of the floor happening because, great, he looks good in camp. Okay, he looked good in camp all the other years too. He has great highlights on YouTube. You can go look up. He's a very good highlight quarterback. But at the end of the day, what is he, like 8-27?
I think he finally cracked 10 wins. But yeah, it's like 10-26 or 27, something like that. It
doesn't matter how good you look on a play-by-play basis and all these hype videos that you see of Justin Fields. It doesn't matter. He doesn't win games.
No, I agree. I think the hope is that there's some better infrastructure here, which you could argue that. I think that's debatable. I'm high on the Bears this year, so that would kind of contradict myself. But I don't think he had the best infrastructure, especially early in his career there.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. I still don't think he's going to be great, but I think it's at least interesting how good he has looked.
It's interesting, and I think it's interesting that he might take over the QB1 role for Week 1.
Yeah, he's super talented. So if he can put it together, I don't think it's crazy to have excitement about that.
Yeah.
Hit number 3 here. I've said for so long, offensive coaches. I said, 3 years ago, just build Bill Belichick a statue, thank him for his work, and send him on his way, get an offensive guy. Of course, they went and hired a defensive guy, but it's a different story. I've been saying pretty similar stuff about Tomlin. Like, I think I would move on. The NFL released that they patched a loophole in the rules in regards to motion. There was some plays where players were basically getting a head start when they were kind of running in motion. Okay. Guess the 3 teams. And you haven't seen this at all.
Probably the Chiefs.
No, close.
Okay, the Chargers.
No.
The Rams.
2 more.
I'm just trying to think
about that level coaching.
Yeah, so I'm going to say 49ers.
Yep, 1 more.
And the Dolphins.
Yep, there it is. Absolutely. It's those 3 teams that got nabbed for that little loophole. They don't get in trouble. They just can't do it again. Those are the 3 teams that were doing it. What do we notice there? Offensive, young, progressive coaches
that are going to bend the
rules. One
rules.
Was just in the Super Bowl. One in Sean McVay has won a Super Bowl and it has been to another and is a fantastic head coach. And one so far in his young career, Mike McDaniel, we think is fantastic.
Bend the rules and try to come up with something dynamic that reshapes the league, and that's what they're doing. And that's what's successful in the coaching world.
Exactly. That's what they've been doing, and they're just continuing to do it. Miss number 3. Now, this isn't necessarily our fault, so this is a little bit of a phantom miss, but Justin Herbert was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. I don't know if you've dealt with that.
I have.
It's a nerve issue in your foot. Yeah. And it is a big issue. In terms of it can be a nagging, lingering issue that can last you for months on end. So right now he's in a walking boot. Hopefully he gets that solved. I don't think I'm this Chargers team's never going to win now. It's just got plantar fasciitis. My question would be, do you think it dings the Chargers this season right now? Like if you had them at a 10-win team, do you bump them down a win maybe 9-8?
I could see it, but I don't know. At the end of the day, that's something that I think he'll recover from rather quickly. He's around the best trainers, the most world-class sports medicine guys, day in and day out. And if what I can remember from plantar fasciitis, I don't want to downplay it at all, but if you stretch, you get a little more.
Some inserts usually help.
Yeah. So I mean, there are fixes. This guy is ultra competitive. He plays through injuries anyway. I don't think a little case of plantar fasciitis is going to slow him down all that much.
It's fair.
So I don't see it being. I see it. It's negligible.
Sure. Okay. But that's actually it for hits and misses. We do have another minute, and I forgot to ask this question for hit number 1 here about Tua, because I was thinking, I'm wow, I think the Packers are really committed to Jordan Love. Actually, I guess I'll tease this for the last segment. I think the Packers are really committed to Jordan Love. I feel like the Tua contract feels more like the Jared Goff one, where you then flip him for a better quarterback. Am I crazy? Does that seem logical?
I mean, yeah, that could definitely be the play, but we're going to have to see what transpires. Who else would you go get?
I guess we'll have to talk about that in the 3rd segment.
Yeah. All right, guys, stick around. Out of the break, we will have the NFC South.
Segment, my bad.
Yeah, the NFC South predictions to start things off. Then we'll get into the Dak contract, talk all quarterback contracts, and get into that. Don't go nowhere.
Welcome back in. Is the issue. What is it, the 8th of August now?
Yep.
And we are back with the second segment of yet another episode. 3-something or 2-something?
237.
230-something. I knew there was a 3 somewhere in there. Episode 237. However you got here, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Prime Video, iHeartRadio. We appreciate you getting here and consuming the product. Make sure you like, subscribe, review, follow, comment, download it. I don't know however many systems that you can help us out. Like, did I say like already?
Yeah.
I don't know, I probably said like. Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, all that.
Just
go do that.
Watch the show, like the show, and send it to a friend. That usually does, that covers all the bases.
Ooh, send it to a friend. Didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
Good one.
Spread it. We got a good segment here.
Yeah, no, we do. We have divisional predictions followed by the superlatives, of course. And then we'll talk a little bit about the contracts with quarterbacks, right? That quarterback market. Tua gets paid. Jordan Love gets paid. Does Dak get paid, right? Trevor Lawrence earlier this year got paid. So we'll kind of talk about all that and the quarterback market ahead. And then we'll get into the last call, and that'll be it for the day.
Yeah, it's a needed discussion. I think when all those stories started breaking, and of course the listeners know we took a short show last week. We weren't really able to cover anything other than the AFC North predictions last week. But things were breaking. Quarterbacks were being paid, and it was a discussion amongst us, and something we definitely wanted to get to the show this week, so that will be good to round things out. But first, we have the divisional predictions. Now on to the NFC South. Okay, so we've done so far the NFC West, the AFC West, the NFC North, the AFC North, now the NFC South, predicted records, standings, and then we will get into the superlatives to finish things out. Predicted MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Breakout Player, and Coach of the Division. Here we go.
Yeah, I think, so I always start at the bottom, work right at the top.
Yep.
The Panthers feel like a fourth-place team to me. They're over-under. We're going to start throwing those in here because that's pretty important. A lot of people care about betting. Their over-under is 5.5. I think they are just under that at 5-12. I know the schedule's pretty easy, but that's because they're in an easy division. But that doesn't mean they still don't have the fourth worst quarterback as of right now in the division.
Yep.
And they, as of right now, have the, I'd argue Canales may be better than the New Orleans guy, but still, they still have a rookie head coach. The defense isn't anything special. The offensive line's still in work. So to me, I have a section on these for my notes. What are their question marks, right, going into the season? Everything?
There's too many.
Is Bryce Young any good? Can Dave Canales coach? Is the offensive line legit? Could they even run the football? It looks like they probably will be able to, but who knows? Are their weapons good enough? Is the defense worth anything without Brian Burns? Jeremy Chin is gone. Who's on this team that's going to make plays, right? That's my question.
I think the concerning answer is nobody. There's not a bright spot. We were going through it, and I think when we were doing the predicting, before we kind of sat down, added rationale to it, because the way we do it first is very bare bones, go through the schedule. We found 2 wins that we felt confident in.
For sure.
That we felt confident in.
And there's probably about 4 or 5 more that were kind of up in the air. So we had awarded them 3 of those 5.
So a 5-12 record, first of all, is being kind. That's giving them a little more than...
I think that's being kind, yeah.
So I just don't see what's in Carolina. I don't think there's any bright spots to look to. I mean, lose, tank, and get a good draft pick next year.
Possibility, for sure. Some key additions and subtractions: Deontay Johnson, Hayden Hurst, and Robert Hunt, and Jadeveon Clowney. For additions, they lost DJ Chark, Brian Burns, Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin. So the defense losing Burns, Jackson, Chin, that's a problem, right? I think that defense is not going to be very good, and you have an offensive coach, so it's not like it's going to get that much better.
That is not a good mix.
No, I think in third place, though, New Orleans, they're over-under 7.5. Again, I think they're slightly under at 7 and 10. Again, questions, a lot. I have a ton of questions. I have more questions than I do answers. And the primary two are their primary 2 positions. Head coach. I'm not a Dennis Allen guy whatsoever. I don't think he's very clever. I'm not sure he's figured out how to win as an NFL head coach. And I don't know if Derek Carr still has it. I know when he went to New Orleans, I did a whole rant hey, if he just keeps up his career average for the next 5 years, he's top 15 in every stat category. He's putting on a Hall of Fame level resume without the accolades in terms of a statistical standpoint. But that has fallen off mightily. Injuries have been a concern. I don't know. And who are their skill position guys? Michael Thomas is gone. Obviously, you still have Chris Olave, who's pretty good. Rashid Shaheed.
But not anybody I would lean on.
No, I think as of right now, Olave is probably either a low-end 1, high-end 2. And then it's a bunch of 4s and 5s maybe. A bunch of 4s and 5s.
I agree with that. And I don't like the Dennis Allen thing either. I think when he was kind of promoted from within, We didn't
after
like
Sean
it.
Payton.
Yeah, we didn't like it at first.
Oh, we said go out and get an offensive coach. What are we doing?
It just felt very lazy. It felt like the lazy decision to make.
I think that's fair. Some additions: they added Chase Young and Willie Gay, the linebacker from Kansas City, and they lost Andres Pete, the offensive lineman, Zach Bond, the linebacker, and Michael Thomas has yet to sign anywhere. So as of right now, he's a loss. Who knows? He may re-sign. Pretty doubtful. Number 2 here, Tampa Bay. Their over-under is also 7.5. I just know what I get at the 2 most important positions. I'm not saying Todd Bowles is great. I'm not saying Baker's great. But I feel like every given Sunday, I kind of know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Like Todd Bowles is going to be a little more conservative. He's going to send a lot of, in terms of the overall game plan, like running the football, field position. Defensively, you're going to get a ton of blitz packages. He's going to be aggressive. Antoine Winfield, the safety on the back end, is going to be able to clean up a lot of messes that the front 7 starts.
I agree with that.
And Baker's going to give you a consistent, 2 to 250, pass rating anywhere between 85 and 95, about a touchdown and a half to 2 per pick. And that's kind of what you're going to get.
I was going to say, he's chippy. He's going to win you a game. And newsflash, Baker Mayfield, although he is kind of a meme and a little bit of a joke, he plays winning football.
He's a viable quarterback. And
yes.
I said this from the very beginning when I had a problem with Baker in Cleveland. It wasn't because I thought he was a bad quarterback. It's because people were putting him in the top 10. People were saying he's the franchise guy. I just didn't agree with that.
Yeah.
I thought he was somewhere around the 14th to 18th best quarterback. He's a franchise guy, a low-end franchise guy. He's a franchise guy.
Yeah, and he'll get it done. He'll win games, and he'll have a winning record.
I agree with that. They added Jordan Whitehead, Randy Gregory, and Graham Barton through the draft. And they lost Carlton Davis and Devin White, your guy, LSU guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were always a fan of him. I don't know why. No, maybe I'm crazy.
He's solid.
Yeah, he is solid. I don't even know where he went, actually. Number 1 here, Atlanta. Their over-under is 9.5.
We haven't figured out one more win.
Yeah, 10-7 feels right. I think maybe 11-6. The schedule's pretty light because I think they split with Tampa and then they sweep both New Orleans and Carolina. They added, of course, Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, Lost, Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell, and Jonnu Smith. My only question is Kirk 100%? Right, that's my primary question. Is Kirk back 100%? Because before he tore his Achilles, he was playing almost MVP level football. Like, he was really good last year until he tore his Achilles.
Yeah. Is that an injury you can bounce back from easily? Because I don't think it is.
Easily, no. But I don't know if any major injury like that is easy to bounce back from, especially at his age.
That's what I say.
I mean, the thing is, he never moved a ton anyway, but he's going to be even more stationary now.
Yeah.
So the offensive line's really good, though. So they're going to be able to protect him. Another thing I'm looking at, can Raheem Morris make that defense better, right? They addressed it in the draft. They addressed it in free agency a little bit. They have a good corner, a good safety. I like Grady Jarrett up front. So the defense has some pieces. Can Raheem Morris, a defensive guy, kind of turn that ship around? I think
it can.
Is it like a D'Amico Ryans? Of course, he doesn't have a young C.J. Stroud, but he has a veteran quarterback. Can it be an organization gets a breath of fresh air with a competent quarterback and a rock-star defensive head coach? I think that's what they're hoping for.
Yeah, and I think that defense is going to be the key, whether they get above that 9.5 win total there. And I think if the defense is on, or at least viable and playing top half of the league defense, they will.
I think it's we clearly have them in a playoff spot. I think 11 wins is very doable. Very doable.
All right, to run back through, we got the Falcons in first at 10-7. The Buccaneers trailing a game behind them at 9-8. The Saints in third at 7-10, and the Panthers very well in the basement at a cool 5-12, fighting it out to 5-12.
To me, this is kind of the division where I don't know. There's a lot of question marks, but I kind of know. I feel confident about each of these rankings, like more so than any other division. Again, there's a lot of question marks with these teams, but I don't think New Orleans is going to surprise anybody and win 11 games. I don't think the Panthers go winless, and I don't think they surprise anybody with 9 wins. You know what I mean? Like, I think you kind of have a general idea for all of these teams, despite their question marks individually.
Yeah, I agree. All right, superlatives. So let's start with MVP.
Back to the V part, value. Kirk Cousins has to be the most valuable player. Do I think Bijan Robinson is more talented? Yes. Do I think Chris Olave is a more talented player? Maybe quote-unquote better? Yeah. But I think in terms of value, that franchise has been a losing franchise. Kirk's going to come in. They're going to have a winning season, most likely make the playoffs. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins would be the most valuable player.
Okay. Offensive player of the year.
I think Bijan Robinson, because I think knowing One, it's a defensive head coach, right? Raheem Morris, defensive head coaches tend to run the ball more. And what tree is he from? The Sean McVay tree. They like to run the football, right? So you would assume that Bijan's going to get a ton of carries, going to get work out of the backfield. I would go Bijan.
Okay, now defensive player of the year.
Not a ton of defensive talent in this division.
We were grasping.
We were grasping at straws. I still think Cam Jordan is a top 10 defensive lineman. He's got some injury concerns. He's aging a little bit, not quite as fast as he used to be, but there's not a lot to choose from. Maybe A.J. Terrell from the Falcons would be like an honorable mention. Maybe Jesse Bates from the Falcons, Grady Jarrett from the Falcons. There's not a ton of talent elsewhere, though. Tyrann Mathieu from his same team. Marshawn Lattimore, maybe the DB.
It dries up quick.
Where, like, I know I just named like 10 names, but none of them are really like, oh, that's clearly, like, I don't think there's someone in this division where we're going to get a ton of comments like, how did you forget about TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, etc.
Yeah,
so.
Nobody big like that. All right, breakout player of the year.
Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I think he is probably one of the most talented players in football that I think has not gotten a fair shake. Like, I kind of put him as like a Terry McLaurin type, but Terry McLaurin has been more productive up to this point, so that kind of seems like it's a slight on Terry, but my point being is that Kyle Pitts is really talented, and I think with a quarterback that can get him the ball consistently, he's going to be really good.
Yeah, I think
with Drake London, I think the whole receiving core in Atlanta is poised for this list.
Especially now that he's being utilized as a receiver rather than just a tight end.
Yeah, he's never been a good blocking tight end either, so I might as well just split him out wide.
Yeah, he's got the big frame, big catchability. I like it. All right, coach of the division.
I think Raheem Morris. Yeah, you're going to go into a losing franchise who won, 7 games last year. Obviously, a new quarterback's going to help, but I do think the defense is going to see, I don't want to say absurd improvement, but market improvement. So, yeah, Raheem Morris.
Okay. There you go. Run back through.
Kirk Cousins, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. Bijan Robinson, Defensive Player of the Year. Cam Jordan. Breakout Kyle Pitts, Coach of the Year. Raheem Morris of the Falcons.
Perfect. Those are the NFC South superlatives, so go check it out. That's posted everywhere you can find the show, and along with Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you can find it all there as well. Go check out the link on theissuesports.com. But now we have a discussion to be had about these new quarterback contracts and everybody getting paid, and what does this mean for Dak, and what's that going to look like? So if you want to intro that.
Well, so there's 2 things that are true. Dallas obviously has 3 stars that need signed. And you're looking at, well, what's probably going to happen, right? We've had this discussion with Tua. You said he's worth 40 or whatever. I said, yes, but he's going to get 50 to 55. And, of course, he did. And the same thing was true with Jordan Love. So it's less about what we think people are worth and more about, hey, what is actually going to happen? Who has the leverage, right? Who has years remaining? Who would be worth more on the open market, right? So Dallas has 3 guys to sign, Dak, Micah, and CeeDee Lamb. There's really only one of those 3 that historically don't actually get the contract from that team, and it's CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver, right? So historically, wide receivers are traded because they are very expensive, and college is producing 10 to 15 productive, not all of them are stars like CeeDee Lamb, but productive receivers per year that can at least band-aid the position if you have to move on from somebody. So historically, that's the one contract that just doesn't get done. A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, right? The list would go on and on if I really did some digging there. And of course, that leaves Micah and Dak to get paid. I do think Micah will get paid. The interesting thing about Dak, and I think Dak would be smart to let this go to the season because then he won't negotiate during the season. And at the conclusion of the season, he would be, in my eyes, the biggest free agent in NFL history. I don't think there's ever been a time where a quarterback in their prime, coming off a season, at least this year, obviously we'll see what happens this coming year, but we don't expect him to take a massive step back. So at worst, 1 season removed from an MVP caliber campaign, in his prime, hit the full-blown open market, unrestricted free agent, right? People are like, well, Lamar, you would have had to give up 2 first-round picks to get him. Brady, he was 40-something, right? We have not seen a quarterback of this caliber come to market, especially in this new age quarterback market, come to market as a completely unrestricted free agent in his prime. This is going to be unprecedented, and if I'm Dak, I'm pushing it to that because I do think someone's going to give him $65 million. I think, again, we can talk, again, just like we do with Tua, is he worth it? No. Dak is going to get, if he hits the market, now if he re-signs with Dallas, there's a chance he'll probably take a little bit of a pay cut. If he hits the open market, he will sign a contract anywhere between $60 and $65 million. Period, end of story. That's just the reality of the situation. Right? Like, next April, Dak is going to sign a mega contract deal with somebody else if Dallas or with Dallas if he does not get signed before the season. It's just going to happen. Right? He has all the leverage. Can't be tagged, nothing. Like, he has every stitch of leverage.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get paid. I don't think he's worth it, though. No, this also has to lead to the question, take an introspective look, Dallas. Is it Dak that's holding you back, or is it something else in the front office possibly relating to Jerry? Because there's a reason why you haven't won. And he just came off of an MVP caliber season.
You still didn't win.
And you still couldn't win. And it's not like it was all Dak's fault. It's when he plays bad, the entire team plays bad. I think Kean Kropp was the one who said that. We had him on the show. He talked about how when Dak looks bad, the entire team looks bad. I'm not sure if it's a problem with all of Dallas or if it's just a problem with Dak, but it's something that has to be looked into. Now, I know he'll get paid. If Tua got paid and freaking Jordan Love got paid,
Dak will get paid.
Dak, it wouldn't surprise me if it was $75 million, and obviously that's hyperbole, but it wouldn't surprise me just because of the way the quarterback market is nowadays. Everybody's getting paid. Well, of course, Dak's going to.
Exactly. I think there's a win-win here, too. Like, I think if you're Dallas, you can, in essence, effectively win by not overpaying Dak. Like, at some point, you have to be okay with somebody else overpaying for what you have. Like, at some point, you have to be okay with that. At some point, the Vikings were like, Kirk, you can go get overpaid by the Falcons. Go find a losing organization that's going to pay you $45 million or whatever he got, because it's not going to be here. Or like, at some point, you have to say, we're not going to overpay to stay in the same exact spot.
You have to draw a line.
Like, you have to be okay with that. So Dallas can effectively win by getting out of this revolving door, and Dak can win by going to be the highest paid quarterback ever by a long shot.
But then I also worry that, I don't worry, but I'm just saying that Dallas might make that decision, and then in a couple months turn around and realize, oh no, he was the one that was holding up the entire house of cards that we even had.
I think it's a mixture of both, but it's going to happen. I disagree with the premise to pay him $65 million, but Dak is going to get that money.
Okay, so give a prediction. Does he stay in Dallas?
I think Dak Prescott is playing somewhere else next year.
Not in the Cowboys uniform.
Not in the Cowboys uniform. I think I'll throw out 3 teams. I would say that the New York Giants is a real legitimate possibility.
They're already overpaid for one quarterback. Might as well do it again.
Yeah, and I think they could finally be like, hey, let's get a grown-up in the room. Not that Daniel isn't it, but a grown-up that actually is effective. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a chance Daboll is gone as well, so you have a new coach, and he takes maybe a marquee coach like a Vrabel or a Belichick there with him. That feels real. Or Pittsburgh, I think, is realistic. What if Justin Fields and Russell Wilson both suck?
That's a
likely
possibility.
High possibility.
Yeah.
You asked what team. Oh, now this is a perfect pivot to that question that I teased. Is this Tua contract more of a Jared Goff contract? What if you're Dallas and you get on the phone and say, Tua for Dak? We'll give you a couple first round picks. Tua for Dak. Just like a Stafford for Goff. I'm not saying that I think Dak is as talented as Stafford, but it's not like they've had vastly different careers. In fact, I'd argue that Dak has had a more successful career up to this point than Matt Stafford.
Sustained success, but I mean, he hasn't won a Super Bowl.
No, but I'm saying as Matt Stafford up until when he went to LA, when he was just in Detroit.
Sure, yeah.
And what if Dallas says, we'll just reboot with a slightly cheaper quarterback? The cap's going to go up, so quarterbacks are going to start making $65, $70 million. We'll have 2 at 52 or whatever. So we'll have a slight discount at quarterback, and we'll be in the exact same spot with paying somebody else less, and we'll have another first and second in the trade.
That's insane.
Is that crazy? So I would say watch out for Miami. And I'll throw actually one more out there, and this is from Eric Mangini threw this out there. The Rams. What if Stafford gets hurt again this year?
You think they go for
again?
Dak?
I don't think it's crazy. McVay has shown that he's clearly uninterested in coaching a bad team. Like, he won't coach a rebuild.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Would you rather have McVay walk, or would you say, we'll at least give him a chance with Dak? If that keeps McVay in the building, I would do it. Because I think with him...
Given his chance with Matt Stafford didn't end up going too poorly, so...
I think it's fair.
It's something to keep an eye on. Either way, the Dak situation is interesting. I feel like we've been talking about the Dak contract for as long as we've had this podcast.
Because it was his first contract when we first started. It was the first time he got extended. Yes.
So we have been.
Yes,
This is the fourth.
we literally
year,
have.
This is the fourth year of the show. We're still talking about the Dak contract.
Exactly. And he's
finally-
going to get it. And finally, we have clarity as we know that he's going to get paid massive money.
Well, we're going to see an outcome.
We're going to see an outcome for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Let's go. We have last call. This one's rather interesting. This was more of an impromptu one thought of actually by a listener of the show. So if you have any suggestions and you think that you want to hear us talk about something ridiculous, go ahead and throw it in the comments. We always are looking for last call suggestions.
A DM, DMs, comments.
Somewhere.
If you know us, text us, whatever.
Either way.
Whatever.
So this one is
So, actually, let me start out with a question before this question. And it's the question I asked you, and it's from Tyson Badgett, who did a 1 mile burpee broad jump. And I asked you point blank, clearly you haven't seen the clip that he said that. Maybe you did after the fact. I asked you point blank, how long do you think it would take to burpee broad jump 1 mile? And you said...
like an hour and a half.
No, you said 35 to 40 minutes was your initial answer. And I said, if you got it done in under 2, I'd be floored. Tyson Badgett, a professional athlete that is an avid CrossFitter, did it in an hour and 7 minutes.
Okay, so
your 35 to 40 would be berserk.
Okay,
I'd say like an hour and 45 would be really good for you, and for me as well.
Yeah.
That would be brutal. If I got under 2, I'd be stoked.
Well, we also said that we would add a six-pack challenge into that as well.
That's true. We did say we'd have to drink 6 beers by the end of it, whether it's at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, mix it up.
But if you throw up, you start over.
That's not true. That literally is impossible. We're never going to finish.
Then don't throw up.
That we would never finish.
Then don't throw up. Drink them at the end.
We would just never... we would still throw up. After you did that, you would be throwing up without the beers.
No, as long as you cross the finish line without throwing up.
Yes, but you need to drink 6 beers to end it.
Yeah. So you stand at the finish line, you drink all 6, and as soon as you feel like you're about to throw up, you jump over that line, you throw up, you're fine. I mean, you better get all 6 down first, though.
I don't think... I think you'd be throwing up. By that point, you'd be throwing up before you drink the beers. 100%.
Probably.
100%. Okay, the actual question for last call, though, is what do you think, and we'll toss it over to you, Mr. Time Guy, Mr. Athlete, what do you think your 40-yard dash time would be while running on an airport people mover?
We talked about it. I think 4 flat is... That's a good answer. You proposed it.
So,
I think,
do you know what you run in the 40 to begin with?
I know what I ran in a 60 when I was...
What was your 60?
It was like it was a 7.1 or 7.2 something.
I feel like that's just not true. I think that's stupid fast. I don't really know what an average 60 is.
Like a really fast Division 160 time was like 6.8, 6.9. I was like a 7.2.
Now I'm
There's a video of me running
average
a 7.2.
60-yard dash. We'll go MLB. Okay, yeah, no, for sure. You are 100% well above 7.1. The target range for a 60-yard dash, 6.7 to 7 seconds. So you'd be just above the best for MLB.
You can look it up on the PBR website. It's probably still up there.
Maybe I'll believe you. But, okay, I think that's a 4 flat, you think?
Probably. I mean, you're moving. I was walking on one last week. You're going pretty good. Just like taking a step every now and then. You're moving.
Here's so I think I'd also be around a 4 flat. My concern is how are you getting off? Moving at that fast rate of speed, if you come towards the end, like if your 40-yard dash ends at that end of that people mover, you just have to jump, right?
You'd have to have
the end of the thing is going to be coming up on you quickly. Quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
The thing is, though, with that, I was thinking the Pittsburgh airport has some pretty long stretches of people moving.
Are we going to try this sometime?
We could. We could try it. The thing is...
Okay, go ahead.
Even if you're trying to slow down on it, I think you'd still fall. Because the ground is still moving.
Still moving. That'd be trippy. I think even running on something moving would be really trippy. Yeah. I would probably faceplant.
Yeah, I don't know if I could get
I'd probably faceplant.
That's the thing that's making me now second guess. Because I don't know if I could get into a full sprint on a moving surface. You'd have to have some,
I think you could.
Not a very good start. The acceleration would be pretty poor.
I think you could do it. What if you started right on the end and your first step was just onto that moving
Is that
line?
something you could get kicked out of the airport for?
If anybody knows that, please drop a comment.
Because we're about to try it, and I'd rather not have to, fly or drive to Cleveland to fly for the rest of my flights.
Yeah, that'd
the rest
not
of the time.
be ideal.
No.
Get kicked out of the Pittsburgh airport.
Now that would be a marketing branding tool right there. That'd be good.
It's going downhill.
Either way.
Cut
That's
it
the end of
off.
the show. We'll be back. Episode 238 will be next week. We'll be talking about the AFC South. So more competitive teams and, not as painful of a discussion. The NFC South, by the way, our least favorite division to do. So,
100%.
So we
We
got
talked
through
about
it.
that.
We got nothing but up from here, and then the NFL season. So hang out with us the entire time. Go subscribe. Go follow wherever you get the podcast. We appreciate it. That was The Issue.